Hey everybody, Richard here with CRG Games, and I finally finished this Miirym, the Sentinel Wyrm deck. I am the world's slowest deck builder. That's pretty much hands down the truth. It took me forever to do this, and partly the reason is because I had to pull cards from other decks, and I'm like trying to figure out, what do I want to take, what do I not want to take. I have not gotten to play this yet. I just finished it. Just finished leaving, putting everything in the deck builder online to figure out, what the average CMC was, all that good stuff. So it's about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That's creatures, spells, lands. I feel like that's probably a good breakdown. I have a little bit more lands and mana rocks in here than I normally would because the average CMC is almost 4, and that's pretty high in an EDH deck. But I think it'll work out. So let's take a look at it real quick. Miirym Sentinel Wyrm is the commander, and this is a teamer commander, so green, red, blue. It has flying and ward 2, which means if someone wants to cast a spell that targets this, they must pay an additional 2 mana. Whenever another non-token dragon ETBs under your control, create a token that's a copy of it, except the token isn't legendary if that dragon is legendary. Now, that's important because if you're creating a token of a legendary creature, that means you don't have to sack one of those creatures. We'll start off with sneak attack here. So this is very important because this will allow you to get ETBs very cheap by cheating them out onto the battlefield. Descent into Inverness. I put this in here. Again, I really like this card. It helps speed the game up. And not just for you, but for everybody else. And it'll create those treasure tokens, which you're going to need to be able to cast these high CMC dragons. Descendant's Path. Now, I put this in here because for 3 mana, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library if it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, and you should be controlling all or mostly all dragons. You may cast it without paying its mana cost, otherwise put it on the bottom of your library. So I think this is going to help more than it hurts because the CMC is so high on a lot of these. They cost 5, 6, 7 mana. If you get to just cast it without paying its mana cost, you'll get that onto the battlefield and potentially get an ETB trigger from Miirym. So I believe this is going to be a good enchantment to have. Kindred Discovery. Of course, when a creature you control ETBs or attacks, draw a card. It's a little bit high in the mana cost, but I think this is going to be a good enchantment as well. Swiftfoot Boots to get your big flyers out and moving. Stoneforge Masterwork. I believe this is probably going to be one of the better equipments to have because once you equip it, and its cost and equip cost is very cheap, it gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control that shares a creature type with it. So in this case, you're going to be creating lots of dragons, and you're going to have lots of dragons. So Stoneforge Masterwork should be able to beef up your creatures pretty high. Mana Crypt, I did have to use my media promo because I don't have another one. I only have the Eternal Masters one in this. I love this card. I picked this up for $200 actually, which seems like a lot, but I mean, this was the first printing of Mana Crypt back in the 90s. And to get this, it was the whole thing where you gotta, clip out a thing out of a book and you gotta mail it in. So a lot of people just didn't even bother. I love this card. Not only because it's rare, not only because it's Mana Crypt, but because it's brown. Old artifacts are brown, and I love that. Jeweled Lotus, that's going to help get Miirym out sooner rather than later. Urza's Incubator, this is going to help make your dragons cost less and get them out faster. Soul Ring, of course, Mana Rock. Panharmonicon, this is going to give you additional triggers on your creatures, and that's going to be very important as well. The Great Hinge, you should be able to get this out pretty early if you have creatures out. So you could potentially cheat out with Sneak Attack, a strong creature, and then play the Great Hinge early on because it costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So you don't need that creature to be out there for a long time. You just need it to be out there to play the Great Hinge. Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind, Lapis, and Jade. These are mana rocks specifically geared toward dragons. Monster Manual. I like this card because it allows you to get creatures out with its second ability, but it also allows you to mill some cards and return a creature card to your hand if it was milled that way. So it allows you to cycle through your deck a little bit more, and then you can put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That's important because of the high CMC. Earthquake Dragon. So if you were to, for example, sneak attack this out, and let me just double check that sneak attack doesn't have a color. Where did it go? Creature from your hand onto the battlefield. Yep, perfect. So you cheat out Earthquake Dragon. You play the Great Hinge. Now you've got additional mana and additional triggers that are going to happen when you're casting things. And you can attack with Earthquake Dragon. So great card. Emerald Dragon. It's from Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. Skanos. Dragonheart. Scaled Nurturer. This is going to be a really good one too. This is going to give you a little bit of life gain because you're going to need that. A lot of dragons, at least in this deck, don't inherently have lifelink, and I don't think I have anything else to give lifelink, so little things like this do help. Rattleclaw Mystic. This is kind of a mana rock, but also a creature as well. Thrakis the Butcher. A dragon peasant. He gets double the power for each dragon you control until end of turn. I'm sorry, double the power of each dragon you control until end of turn. So that's very strong. Lozon, Dragon's Legacy. When you cast an adventure spell or dragon spell, the dragon spell is going to be important here. It deals damage equal to the spell's mana value to any target that isn't a commander. So this will allow you to, when you're casting spells, start pinging other things on the board for damage. And Corlessa, this is going to let you cast from the top of your library. That is very important because there's not a ton of card draw in here. So this will help you get around that. Goblin Anarchomancer, this just makes things cheaper. Atarka, Flying and Trample. When a dragon you control attacks, it gains double strike, so that's going to hit people really hard. Minion of the Mighty. So you're probably going to be able to trigger the Pack Tactics with the total power of 6 or greater. You'll get to put a dragon from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, so that's basically for free. This is very powerful in this deck. Wrathful Red Dragon. When it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dragon. Again, you're going to be able to ping other people. And Thassa Deep Dwelling. So this is very important. The devotion to blue is probably pretty much always going to be in effect. The most important part is the second ability here. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to one other target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under your control. That's important because whenever another non-token dragon ETBs, you create a token that's a copy of it. So you're going to be creating additional tokens with Thassa. Astral Dragon Project Image. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 tokens that are copies of target non-creature permanent, except they're 3/3 dragon creatures in addition to their other types. So the fact that those tokens are dragons is going to allow other cards in here to interact with those tokens in beneficial ways to you. And it's really expensive. That's why you're going to want to cheat this thing out, maybe with sneak attack, or if you can get the Great Hinge out sooner, you get some mana rocks, because 8 mana is a lot. Shrieking Mog. So I really like Shrieking Mog. It's dirt cheap. It's like 40 cents, but the foil's quite expensive. When it comes into play, so when it enters the battlefield, tap all other creatures. So what this will do is allow you to have an undefended attack against your opponents, and to help make that even more damaging, because it will tap your creatures too. You're going to want to play Shrieking Mog, and then you're going to want to play Mobilize to untap all your creatures for 3 mana. I think that's incredibly powerful 2-card combo to allow you to deal lots of damage. Also, if you don't have Mobilize out, but you do have Sneak Attack, you can still tap all other creatures, Sneak Attack some creatures out, and then you've got the ability to still do a heavy amount of damage. So very good. Sakashima, the Legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. This is maybe not as important because Miirym already takes care of that in the token aspect, but you can bring this out as a copy of another creature you control, so that's important as well. Tyrants Familiar, this is kind of just a a filler card, but as long as you control your commander, it gets +2/+2, and as whenever Tyrants Familiar attacks, it deals 7 damage to a creature defending player controls. So if you got 2 of those, that's a lot. It's a lot of damage. Terror of the Peaks is a no-brainer. You gotta have Terror of the Peaks. And when you've got other dragons coming out, Terror of the Peaks is actually, it's absolutely going to massacre the competition. Steel Hellkite. It gets +1/+0 until on a turn for 2 mana. Of course, it's flying, colorless. But this is important here. You can pay X to destroy each non-land permanent with CMC X whose controller was dealt damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate only once a turn. So if you can give this haste, or you may not even need to, and you start dealing damage with it, you can start removing other permanents from the board to help you, succeed in winning. Balefire Dragon, this is a foil mythic from Innistrad. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. And we got a Dragon Speaker Shaman from Scourge. This is going to, of course, help all your dragons cost less. 2 less to play. Gilded Drake, not a dragon, but I think Gilded Drake, if you have one and you can play it, you should probably always do that. It's just so strong, being able to exchange control of it with a target creature one of your opponent's controls. I think Gilded Drake is like an auto include. Yeah, it's $300, but it's an auto include. Unfortunately, or fortunately, both, it's reserveless, so we're not going to see this printed again. This is a revised Birds of Paradise for early game ramp and mana. There's not a whole lot of that in here. Breath Weapon deals 2 damage to each non-dragon creature, so you should be good. Dragon's Fire is additional cost to cast this spell. You may reveal a dragon card from your hand or choose one you control. Deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you revealed a dragon card or chose a dragon as you cast a spell, it deals damage equal to the power of that card or creature instead. A lot of text. It's a freaking 2-paragraph card. Basically, it deals damage. That's really the only thing that matters. Glass Pull Mimic, of course, can enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, so that's important. Sapphire Dragon is a counterspell and a dragon. Patron of the Arts will get you some treasure tokens. Goldspan Dragon, get you some treasure tokens, and it's a no-brainer in this deck because it's got haste. And if you create 2 of them, well then dang, you got double the treasure tokens basically. Scourge of the Throne, this is going to get you additional combat steps, and it has Dethrone. Obsidian Charmaw, 1 less to cast for each land your opponents control that could produce a colorless. I don't know if that's quite as important, but it allows you to destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. That is important. And then you can create 2, so you can destroy 2 non-basic lands. My borderless foil Old Gnawbone. This is great because of treasure tokens. Ganax, also treasure tokens. Renari. This will allow you to cast things as if they had flash, so you don't have to wait until your turn to be able to cast. So you can get triggers on other people's turns. Cyclonic Rift if you need to board wipe, and Fierce Guardianship if you need to get rid of a spell. Jeska's Will is going to give you additional red mana, and that is very important, again, because of the high CMC, and Jeska's Will, just a great red sorcery. Blasphemous Act is going to allow you to take care of some big, or some other creatures that are giving you trouble. Momentous Fall is going to allow you to draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, and then gain life equal to its toughness. Again, there's not a ton of life gain in this deck, so any little bit you get is important, and that's why this is in here. Chaos Warp. could help you cheat something out for 3 mana or get rid of a threat on the board. And Herald's Horn is important because that's going to give you your creatures that are dragons, in this case, 1 less colorless to cast. And then the second ability is very important as well. Draconic Lore will allow you to draw additional cards. It's still expensive, but if you can cast it for 4, is it 4? Yeah, 4. That's not too bad to get, 3 cards at instant speed. That's the important part. It's at instant speed. Nature's Lore, to go fetch yourself a forest. 3 visits to fetch yourself a forest. And Bala Ged Recovery. Bala Ged Recovery it's just a fantastic card. If you need mana, it can be that. Or if you need to return things from your graveyard to your hand, it can also do that. And Irenicus's Vile Duplication. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except the token has flying and it's not legendary. So that's also a very good card to get additional dragons out. And commander creatures you own have the first dragon spell you cast each turn cost 2 less. This is very important because you can get this out very early, because it only cost 2 mana. And what the heck is I don't have this in a sleeve, so like the sleeve is... Alright, there's something on this card. Doggone it. Alright, I'm gonna have to set that aside, figure out what the heck is on that card. Alright, Otawara, Soaring City. That's a good one. And you have a Maya that's going to help you out if you need green mana. Haven of the Spirit Dragon. And I also have Crucible of the Spirit Dragon in here. Dragon-oriented lands. You can take a look at those. Cavern of Souls is important. That way you can not have your dragons be countered. City of Brass, one of my favorite lands of all time, and I did just recently pick up the extended art foil, or borderless foil. This is probably my favorite version. And now you can get foil City of Brass cards without having to spend $100 or more. Ketria Triumph, showcase foil, always. Castle Garenbrig, getting 6 mana for 4 with its ability. I think that's probably going to be pretty good. I was a little torn on whether to put this in here. But if you're going to be using it to cast creature spells, then, I mean, it kind of makes sense. And you could potentially get that 4 mana relatively quickly. Bonder's Enclave will allow you to have additional card draw. And Command Beacon, put your commander into your hand from the command zone. This will allow you to get around commander attacks. Temple of the Dragon Queen is, since you're going to have dragons, essentially just going to allow you to have a mana of any color. Exotic Orchard is pretty much essentially going to do the same thing. Misty Rainforest, Fetch Land, Boseiju. Man, if that doesn't have a paragraph on it, I don't know what does. But basically, you can destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land in opponent controls. Potentially for just 1 green mana. It's super strong. Ancient Tomb, and this is just a regular old Tempest, but it is very crispy. Wooded Foothills, fetch. Mana Confluence for a mana of any color. Command Tower for the same. Bark Channel Pathway, Reliquary Tower. If you do end up drawing a lot of cards, you're going to need somewhere to keep that, and preferably that's going to be in your hand. Path of Ancestry for adding mana of color in your commander's identity. And then, because you're pretty much always going to be casting dragons, you're going to get to Scry 1, Crag Crown, Yavimaya Coast, foil, and Stomping Ground. And then the rest of the lands here, I believe, we've got Steam Vents, Scalding Tarn, Riverglide, Hinterland Harbor. Yeah, most of these are cards that I had to scavenge from Animar, to be honest. Sparrow Garden, Sheevan Reef, our Unstable Mountain. I think it's Unhinged Island. I just checked the price on this thing when I was putting everything into the deck builder. This thing's like $50 now. I think I spent like maybe $22, $23 for it, somewhere in there. These things are freaking beautiful. And then we've got a Foil Invasion Forest. So the total price on this deck was right about $2,400. I was hoping to break $3,000, but I don't have any dual lands or anything. I will have to get some eventually. I just don't have any at the moment. So that is Miirym Sentinel Wyrm. Like I said, I have not played it yet. I'm going to play it tomorrow. We're having a Double Masters 2022 draft down at the LGS. Hopefully get something good, and hopefully I win that as well. And then we're going to play some EDH after, and I'll get to try this out. And then also try out Jolene with some of those cards are replaced. So, tune in tomorrow. It might be Saturday before I get that video done. I'll let you know how it did, if there's things that need to be changed, and just kind of give you an overall status report on this deck. And also in other news, I went through my sealed inventory on my Pro Store. I lowered the prices on just about every single item. So I need to get some of that moved. If you're looking for good deals, everything on there should be pretty darn decent. And this weekend on Saturday or Sunday, I'm probably going to lower everything by an additional 5%. Dominaria United's coming out, and just like every other store, I got to move product I'm sitting on. So I'm willing to give good deals on that stuff, and I can get it out to you obviously pretty quick. Everything ships with tracked shipping if it's going to be a sealed product, so you're good to go. You'll know where it's at, and I'll get you taken care of. So hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, I'll catch you later.